They laughed when she tripped over her medic bag. But 10 minutes later, every one of them was silent, staring at her like she'd just rewritten the meaning of courage. No one in Camp Lowell expected the medic to be the one who'd changed the course of that training day. Especially not her, Staff Sergeant Emily Carter, small frame, calm eyes, the kind of person who carried pain quietly. But that morning, under the punishing Afghan sun, the SEALs were in for a lesson they'd never forget. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. It began during a joint training exercise, a simulated village raid on the edge of the desert. Dust hung in the air, heavy as ash, and the SEALs moved with their trademark precision, all muscle, momentum, and control. Emily trailed behind, medical gear strapped to her back like a second spine. She wasn't part of the mission. She was there to patch up the ones who fell. When her boot caught on a buried wire, she stumbled, her medic bag spilling open, bandages, syringes, vials scattering across the sand. A few of the SEALs laughed, not cruelly, just instinctively, like they'd seen a rookie mistake. But laughter, in a place like that, carries far. She didn't look up, just gathered her supplies quietly, eyes locked on the horizon. But inside, something old stirred, a memory of the one time she'd frozen, years ago, when a convoy was ambushed and her commanding officer didn't make it out. That guilt had lived in her ever since, the kind that whispers during silence. That's when the first explosion hit. Was supposed to be a controlled drill. But something had gone wrong, a tripwire. Real ordnance buried deeper than the training team had expected. The ground shuddered. One of the SEALs went down hard, shrapnel slicing through his thigh. The laughter stopped. Emily dropped her bag again. But this time, she didn't kneel to open it. She looked up, scanning the tree line, eyes narrowing. That wasn't part of the exercise, she muttered. Her voice carried the kind of authority that silenced questions. For a moment, no one moved. Then another explosion hit, closer this time. The hillside spat dust and fire. Contact! One of the SEALs yelled. They scattered into cover, rifles up, scanning for hostiles. And there, in the middle of the chaos, a medic's figure stood still. Emily crouched over the wounded man for 3 seconds, just long enough to apply pressure and whisper, "You'll make it." Then she reached down, unclipped his rifle, and stood. The SEAL nearest to her blinked. "Ma'am, that's not." But before he could finish, she was already moving toward the ridge. No hesitation. No fear. Just purpose. Dust whipped around her as she took position behind a crumbled wall, sighted through the rifle, and fired. 3 sharp, perfect bursts. The hillside went quiet. The SEAL who'd mocked her earlier stared, wide-eyed. He'd seen that level of precision before, in sniper school, but never from a medic. Inside her, the calm she'd been fighting for years finally broke free. Every suppressed instinct, every sleepless night of wondering if she could have done more, it all poured out in that moment, steady as her breathing. Then came the voice in her earpiece. "We've got live hostiles. Repeat, this is not a drill." Panic threatened the group, but Emily's tone cut through it like a blade. "You, move the injured to cover. You too, flank left. We'll pin them until evac arrives." For a medic, she spoke like someone who'd led men before. The SEALs obeyed, not out of protocol, but out of something deeper. Respect. As bullets cracked through the air, Emily ducked low, firing with mechanical precision. The wind smelled of burnt cordite and dust. Her pulse didn't waver. She'd been here before, just on the other side of the chaos, patching up bodies instead of preventing new wounds. But this time, she wasn't healing after. She was protecting before, when the enemy fire finally ceased. The air hung heavy with silence. Then came movement, a lone insurgent, emerging from the smoke. Weapon raised. The nearest SEAL was out of ammo, scrambling for cover. Emily stepped forward, just once. One step that would live in their memories forever. The rifle kicked once. The threat dropped, and then, without saying a word, she lowered the weapon, knelt beside the wounded SEAL, and finally opened her medic bag again. Her hands, still shaking from the adrenaline, were steady as she worked. The man she was saving looked at her through pain-clouded eyes and whispered, "Didn't know medics could shoot like that." She gave a faint smile. "Only when they have to." Minutes later, the evac helicopter thundered overhead. Dust swirled in violent circles as the SEAL team lifted the injured aboard. None of them laughed now. When command reviewed the footage later, they discovered her shooting pattern: tight, controlled, surgical. Every shot counted. And the commanding officer, a veteran of multiple deployments, asked a single question: where did she learn to shoot like that? The answer came quietly from one of the SEALs. She didn't learn it here. She brought it with her. That night, back in the dim light of the barracks, Emily sat alone. The laughter from earlier still echoed in her head, but softer now, almost forgiven. She wasn't angry. She understood. People only see what's on the surface. Until the surface shatters. One of the SEALs approached her, the same one who'd laughed first. He stood there for a long moment, searching for words. Then he just said, "Next time we go out, you lead." She didn't look up, just nodded. "No one leads in the field," she said quietly. "We just make sure everyone gets home." And in that one sentence, every man in that unit realized why people like her never bragged, never shouted, never demanded respect. They earned it when it mattered most. Weeks later, words spread through the base. The medic who'd once tripped over her own bag was now unofficially known as the Ghost Medic. Not because she fought like a soldier, but because she appeared when everything went wrong, silent, precise, unbreakable, because courage doesn't need rank. It just needs the moment to prove it. And sometimes, the ones who carry the heaviest bags are the ones who can lift the heaviest burdens. If this story moved you, drop a comment, share where you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe for more stories that remind us bravery isn't loud. It's steady and it's real.